Finally, the Brock has come back to, actually, the first time, Brock Mosley. If you smell what the Brock is cooking.
I'm Bob Cobb from the Bassmaster. Welcome to Mercer.
Here we go, here we go, here we go. That's right, here we go. It is Wednesday. Welcome back to Mercer, the Awkwardly Honest Fishing Podcast. We're here week after week, sometimes in the AM, sometimes in the PM. Who knows? We're all mixed up. But AM, PM, we will be here on a Wednesday. So happy hump day to all of you. Not just hump day. There's other things being celebrated today. Today is an International Day for Disaster Reduction. A lot of people trying to reduce their disasters this week. It is also International Top Spinning Day. So for those of you that are rabid top spinning fans, congratulations. Have a happy International Top Spinning Day. Welcome to our podcast. And week after week, we try to get you inside the head of some of the best anglers in the game. And I'm lucky week after week to be able to convince a guy to come on here and spend some time with us. But this dude is knocking at that door. And you don't have to, like, if you put a poll out and asked Elite Series anglers to write down unanimous, who do you think, give me 5 names of guys that haven't won that are going to win in the near future. This dude's name is on it. He has been knocking at that door, multiple classic appearances, 4 Elite Series bridesmaid finishes, 4 second place finishes. So he has been so close. And I'm happy to report that he's not close this week. He is actually here this week, all the way from Mississippi, one and only Brock Mosley. Finally, the Brock has joined the podcast. Brock Mosley, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm good, man. Just another day in the off season.
You've been busy, I mean, and helping out quite a bit from what I've seen. Spending a lot of time in Louisiana with the storms and that sort of thing.
Yeah, just, helping out friends and our Cajun family. And, most of us don't have a whole lot going on in the off season. So, I'm a of age male that can help. I can do manual labor. So I wouldn't. Just, I'm close enough to driving distance, and I wanted to help out. So I just went down there for about a week and did everything I could do to help.
There's a lot of people on this planet that have never seen an area after it's been hit by a storm, or have been lucky enough not to see that. What did you see when you went down there to help?
I went the second day after the storm hit. I didn't think I could make it the following day with the down power lines and the flooding that was still being dealt with. When I got down there, it was you really can't describe it because, even, the smell, the fresh trees being snapped, just everything just kind of had a stench to it, and just to see what people have to go through is, just pretty humbling because, luckily, I don't think, but there was only a couple of casualties, not many in the Louisiana side at least, but it was pretty humbling. It was pretty bad.
It is amazing how much it can change. How weather just by itself, can change things. And that's why I wanted you to explain it, because there's a lot of people who've been lucky never to see that, you know what I mean? And how much, and there's still people battling, although it's not dominating the news waves or anything like that. It's still a mess in some areas, correct?
Yeah. I went down there to help Tyler Rivette and his family was the main goal to go. And I was actually on the phone with their family when the hurricane got to them. And I was at Lowe's and got all the supplies that his stepdad told me to get for him, as far as, felt paper and roofing paper and all that kind of stuff, roofing, roof tacks, just
wow,
tarps, just anything, we could think of to load up and take down there. And once we got down there, it was, like I said, luckily his house, Tyler's house, and his family's house wasn't that bad of shape, compared to others, few shingles missing, nothing major. Tyler had a fence in his backyard that was gone. That was about it. It ain't like he has a dog or anything to hold in there. So his place actually fared pretty well, but you're going through some neighborhoods, some subdivisions, and some houses look like they haven't hardly been touched. And then you get in the middle of it, and then there's one in the middle of the whole neighborhood that's complete roof is gone. I mean,
wow.
It's just kind of neat how it, can destroy one house, and then the neighbor next to them, doesn't like to have hardly any damage. But once we got down there, their neighbors is the police chief. And once we got them settled in, we asked, the police chief, if there's anything we could do. And he said a lot of their deputies were working around the clock to, prevent looting and people, stealing stuff. So, and they wasn't able to work on their own houses. So,
gosh.
We took into consideration trying to get all the deputies' houses worked on as much as we could. And that's what we spent the next 6 days doing, was working on the first responders' homes.
Wow. Well, thank you for doing that. And I know you didn't do it so you could talk about it on podcasts. And you guys have been fairly quiet about it. So, I thank you for that. But you brought him up, Tyler Rivette, obviously part of your rooming situation with Hank Cherry. Tell me about that rooming situation. And Kelly J roomed with you guys this year as well, correct?
It's definitely entertaining. You got, me, I feel like I have to practice daylight to dark, not necessarily outwork everybody, but if I suck it up, I want it to be because I just didn't figure them out. It won't be because of lack of effort. Hank, he just can kind of go out there and figure things out pretty quick. And he's usually off the water by mid-afternoon. And then there's Tyler. You never really know if Tyler's on the water. He's allowed to be in the gym during the day of practice. And then Kelly just, Kelly's not going to be the first one awake in the house. He just goes out there. He wants to catch them on a jerk bait. So that's what he goes out there to try to do, is catch them on a jerk bait. So it's kind of entertaining. We're all different, but we all, have our ways of helping each other out.
But how important is that? I don't think people know how important it is. When I see all the different rooming situations, and some that start, some that finish, it really, like, to be with a group of people that put your head in the right space. I think it's one of the things that nobody talks about, but it's probably one of the most important things on the Elite Series.
It is. And it's one of the things where you got to be completely honest.
Yeah.
It's not going to work if you're keeping stuff away, just simple things of what depth, you might be getting bit in, or, a particular structure, you're getting bit off more than the other. Just little things that there's little pieces of details that will help each angler out in their own way. We don't necessarily share like locations and stuff like that, but we like techniques, depth, water temp, everything we can kind of soak up, off of one another to help each other out. And, that's our main deal, is to, all of us make a living doing what we love to do.
You say you're the daylight to dark guy. You're out there nonstop. Has that been your entire career, or did something change where you were like, man, I need to put in all the hours? Or is that just what works best for you?
Man, that kind of goes back to my baseball days. I wasn't the best baseball player, and I don't think I'm the best fisherman. So I need that extra edge of work. Like in baseball, I was always in the batting cage when other guys were back home, enjoying the rest of their evening off. I just, one excuse, or just can't replace time on the water. In my opinion, I don't want that excuse if I didn't put enough work in and do my job. If I do badly, I want it to be just because I didn't figure them out, and that'd be on me. What
did Hank's classic victory or victories mean to you? But more specifically, this past year, he called you up on stage. You were in the mix to take that title. What has it meant to you personally?
We like normal. We try to keep that week of the Classic just like a normal event. We roomed together all week during practice, and we knew one of us would have a shot at winning based on our practices. I stayed on one side of the lake, he stayed on the other type deal, but we were mainly doing the same thing except jerk bait. I wasn't going to go to the damn throw a jerk bait. It was a really cool deal. And, I may never win one. So it'd be, being on stage and getting to share that moment with him in history, it was a pretty cool deal. I mean, it was pretty exciting. I wish I wouldn't have stunk it up the first day, but it is what it is. And, I couldn't be more happy if I would have won it, just to see him win it again. And, now he's got a shot at doing something nobody else has ever done and being the first three-peat. But we'll try to keep him from doing that.
What did he say to you on stage, or do you want to keep that to yourselves?
Man, he was in tears, man, can't believe I did it. When I walked off stage, being in the hot seat, it just so happened that his boat was right there. And I think Matt had just weighed in and knocked me off of the hot seat. And we kind of knew in our heads what kind of weight Hank had. Me and Hank did. And when I walked off stage, I winked at him, because knowing he had it, and he was in tears, and it was just kind of a cool deal, man.
Surreal moment, a really an amazing moment. I mean, and it's one of those moments, dude, that you probably don't know it, but I always use the unique thing about our sport is every Classic, there's those moments. In every Classic, there's some little kid that's sitting in the stands or sitting at home watching that moment and visualizing, wow, one day that's going to be me and my buddy up on that stage. And when did those moments happen for you? I mean, I'm sure you inspired a lot of people this year, both you and Hank, but was there a moment for you, like when you were like, man, I got to figure out a way to do this?
Man, I remember every Classic champion that I've watched, from Van Dam winning, I think it was his third in Birmingham, just first couple of years on the elites where I was not as consistent and struggling. I was kind of wondering if it would ever get a chance to be on the stage. But after making my first one, I was kind of like, that was cool. I mean, that was what I dreamed it was being. Now let's just work on making it every year. But dude, I still remember, being that guy. I'm sure there's hundreds of college anglers that are sitting there in the crowd just wishing they could be on that stage with us. And, that's what it's all about. And that's something I'll never take for granted, for sure. But now, once you made a couple of them, it's all about like, let's concentrate on trying to win one of these.
But the dream for you, did it start when you were a kid, or was it baseball first and then you fell into this, or were you a little kid dreaming of going to the Classic?
My dad was actually a Ranger dealer when I was growing up. And we're not far from Birmingham, only a couple hours.
Yeah.
And one of the Classics in Birmingham, he had to go work for Ranger. And I was probably 7 or 8 years old at the time. And I got to go. And I remember watching Roland Martin weigh in. And I was like, I've been watching this guy on TV, my whole life. And, and I was like, I can't believe guys actually do this for a job. I just only thought it was a television show. And that kind of lit the fire under me. I played ball I love baseball. Don't get me wrong. I'm a sports fanatic. But I always wanted to fish in the end. And I actually told my ninth grade career teacher that I was going to be a professional angler when I grew up, and actually got in trouble for telling her that. And but ever since then, she's responded back to me, told me I proved her wrong. So that was pretty cool. But fishing's always what I've always wanted to do. So, it's not like it's work. It's all about, just enjoying what you do.
What is the best part for you personally of being a Bassmaster Elite Series pro? To be in the spot what is the part that you're like, man, I could do that all day long, or that's the part,
I love going to new lakes or going to a lake and trying to figure them out in 2.5 days. That's the part I enjoy probably more than any of it. That's the reason I can stay out there daylight dark. That's why I tell Hank, they get so mad at me waiting on me to go eat at night. And I'm like, dude, getting off the water is not the hard. I mean, once I'm on the water, I don't want to get off, so it's just, that's one of my favorite things about my job is getting out there and trying to figure out what those fish are doing that week in those conditions. And, it just never gets old.
That makes sense. I mean, in other words, it gives you your job is fishing, man. And for the first, you can finally in your life say, look, I'm out here because I'm working hard. Up until you do it for a living, you're kind of like, he just fishes all the time. But when you do it for a living, you're actually out there working hard.
The fishing part of it, I never get burned out. Now, when it's hot, it's 100-something degrees, I get pretty tired like everybody else. But most of the time, I'm just like, one of my favorite pros is Charlie Hartley and the way he looks at the sport. I tell him that every time I see him. I said, you're my favorite pro. And the way he looks at our sport, that's what kind of way I want to look at it when I'm, 25 years from now.
It's amazing. He is a fountain of energy, when you watch Charlie Hartley and he absorbs every moment and you're just like, how do we live in a world that is so unjust Charlie's had his fair of heartbreaks in this sport, but you're just like, they're, in the fairy tale books, Charlie Hartley is the guy that always wins. And I believe, Charlie Hartley has made a huge mark in our sport. And you're right. It's his attitude. But you hear people say things like that, like the most important thing on this podcast, it seemed to have become a trend where anglers are like, attitude and your outlook on things is everything. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely, dude. And it's a very, very humbling sport. I mean, you can finish at the top of the leaderboard, and you can finish at the bottom any week, in or out. I mean, it can happen. And just the drive that we have as anglers to make it in this sport is what's awesome. Like I fished the Open last week. And one thing I like about the Opens is seeing all the young guys or the guys that are trying to make a career in this that are pushing so hard. I mean, just take Prosnick. Prosnick's a well-known pro. He took a career chance and just fished all 9 Opens this year. Yeah. And you see it in the drive. And then there's hundreds of guys out there in the Opens with that same competitive drive that wants to be where we are on the Elite Series. So, it's something you never take for granted, for sure. And, there was times where I didn't know if I was good enough to stay on the elites. So, it's very, very humbling.
How do you recover from that moment? Because that is a moment that, unless you are the very, very few, like literally it's there's usually on one hand you can count.
There's usually 1 or 2 out of each rookie class that are just come in and compete right away. And I tell guys, making the elites ain't necessarily the hard part. It's getting through your first 4 or 5 years is the hardest part. And, once you get through those first 4 or 5 years and get your feet under you in this industry and on the competitive level, it gets a little easier.
Is there anything you would do different when you say that the first, 4 or 5 years? Is there anything, if you could genie in a bottle, go back and start your Elite Series career again, is there anything you're like, man, I wasted a lot of time doing this or focusing on the wrong things or anything like that? Or did all those things need to happen for you to be in the position you're in right now?
I don't know. I mean, our struggles make us who we are, and that's for sure. But, I don't know if I would change anything. I don't know if there's a right way to make it through all those times. Necessarily. It's just one of them things where you just can't give up. You just got to keep going, take all the punches along the way, because there's going to be a lot of punches in the gut. I can guarantee you.
But how do you do that? Because, I mean, when I look at your career and a lot of different people's careers, you know, there had to be moments where you were driving away from events being like, I ain't one of them. I thought I was. In my heart, I want to be one of them. But like, how do you go from that moment where crushing defeat after crushing defeat? Because that's what this sport does. I mean, if you're going to win, Kevin Van Dam won 25 times. He fished for like 29 years. So you're freakishly bad odds of success. You know, you're signing up for something that it's like being a baseball pitcher and being like, I'm going to have one game a year that I'm going to win. And other than that, they're going to knock the leather off the ball. So
my second year, I finished second to him at St. Lawrence.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, could he not just break down just one time and let me take this one? No, but dude, coming in, it was, I was 25, 26 years old, and it was intimidating. Yeah. It really was. I mean, guys you watched on TV your whole life are now your competitors. And it took me a couple of years to adjust and get that tucked up under me to where I'm just going out there worrying about me catching fish instead of worrying about what other people are catching. So it took some time just to kind of, like I said, just tone it out.
When you say it's intimidating, is it just intimidating because of what you're trying to do, or do some of those veterans make it a little more intimidating in some situations?
Well, it's just when you're a bass nut and you watch every Bass Live, back then it was every ESPN show.
Yeah.
All these guys that you watch for all these years, I mean, are right there in the room with you, and you don't want to mess it up.
Yeah.
It was real intimidating, and it's not just the veteran guys, it's everybody. I mean, you know, before I made the elites, I would watch every bass cam, every photo that the guys were taking. I mean, everything. I didn't miss anything. So being with them guys the first couple of years, it took me a little bit to find where I'm just like, I got to tone all this out and catch fish if I want to stay around very long.
And success, was that the biggest switch in your success that you found? Like once you started being who you were to begin with, but you may not have been being him on the Elite Series. Do you think that's the biggest, like just be yourself and you're going to find out whether it's for you or not?
Well, my second year, I got to where I had made checks in about half of them going into that St. Lawrence event, but I was pretty much on my last leg financially. You know, I was 26, 27 years old, about to get married, you know, starting a whole new journey in life, you know what I mean? And I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it past those events. And then I finished second in that one. The next week I got another check. And then the next event after that, I finished second again. So I had like a $70,000 or $80,000 swing in 4 events. And that helped turn my career around for sure. That one stretch of 4 or 5 tournaments definitely helped me to get to where I am today.
Did you, the people around you, your family, all through the rough time, did they constantly support you and say, hey, you can make this? Or was it just like, it's such an oddball dream that it is normal for your family to turn to you and be like, yeah, maybe you should just fill out a job application because this is tough?
I don't, you can ask my wife. She's sitting over there.
Did you ever doubt he would make it?
No, never once.
She's had my back from the very beginning. And my whole family has. And, you know, I worked hard when I was at home to make side jobs, to do whatever I had to do to keep going. I may not have had I may not have had the best attitude at times. But she never doubted me. So I have to give her a lot of credit.
Well, I tell my kids this. I'm like, all my wish for you is that you end up with somebody who loves you and your dreams more than you're willing to even love them yourself. And I think that's one of the things that I'm going to tell you. You look through people in the Elite Series, that is a key ingredient that nobody talks about, having the right support and the right, like when I looked at your family, at Pickwick this year. You know, when you got another second, and which is a great finish for everybody except for the dude who gets it, and the guy who beat you, right?
Yeah.
But when I just saw how bad they want it for you, I mean, that has to fuel you while you're on the water. I mean, I just see a brief second of it, and you obviously live it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been close several times now, and then I had a magical day on the water that day at Pickwick, and every decision I made went right. And it felt like it was my time to win. You hear about guys talk about them days. But Bill, he lands at an 8-pounder and propels him enough to win. And shoot, he's been around way longer than I have. He deserved it way more than me. And I was, it hurt, it stung, but like I said, if I lost to anybody, I'm glad it was Bill Lowen. He deserved it 100%. And it's just one of them deals where you got to keep putting yourself in position, and eventually it'll happen. I mean, just last week in the Open, I started out on day 1 in 4th, and I had on day 2, I had some really big bites that I didn't connect with on topwater, and the whole way home I'm ticked off. And I'm leaving the Open where I finished 15th out of 220, but I'm just ticked off because I put myself in position again. So, just got to go out and keep putting myself in position, and maybe it'll happen one day.
Do they feel different now, the seconds? When I look at those seconds, was it 17 when you got 2 seconds, the first 2 seconds?
Yeah. Then I was like, man, this is cool. I needed the money. But I heard Hackney say something one time on camera, and it finally clicked with me probably a couple of years ago. He said, if you don't win an event, you should leave it disappointed. He said there should be 100 guys leaving this event disappointed and only one of them feeling satisfied. And at the time I was like, man, I just want to check. I don't care. But now it definitely is where you leave and you're like, man, I mean, it feels like a 5th or 6th place finish just isn't good enough anymore. So that's what's pushing me and driving me. I've been fortunate the last 2 years to have quite a few top 10s, and I don't take them for granted or nothing, but I'm ready to get that trophy, the blue trophy.
And it feels like that from the outside. You know what I mean? It really does feel like, I mean, it should happen at any time, but that's what's crazy with this. Cause I mean, it's felt like that for over a decade with Bill Lowen too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Now, last year finishing, I think I finished 4th last year in the Angle of the Year, and ended up 14th this year. Now, my goal is, I want that Angle of the Year too. But to get that Angle of the Year, you got to have, against our group, you got to have at least 3 or 4 top 10s, if not more than that. So, got to keep pushing ourselves. And I definitely have some stuff I need to tighten up. I had a couple of bad tournaments this year, and it just killed me as far as the points goes. But, we live and we learn from it.
What do you think you have to tighten up specifically?
At Guntersville this year, I just flat out did not figure anything out. I tried to stay on the lower end of the lake, and I should have stayed in the river, which a lot of the guys in the top 10 that event came from the river. But, I just tried to force some things, catch them ways other guys were catching them in my house. And I just couldn't do it. And, that was just all about my decision making in that one. And then Lake Champlain, I finished in the 60s, even though I think I caught 17 pounds a day. That was just one of them events where, Champlain's a place you got to catch them and catch them really good if you're going to compete. And it was one of them deals this year. Champlain was in the conditions were like I've never seen it before. Yeah. We were a little earlier, it seemed. I like it when them smallmouth get offshore, and got up there, and I still called them decent, but it wasn't good enough to get in the top 50. And then if you want to win the Angle of the Year, you need to be in that top 35 every tournament. So just a few things I got to tighten up and to work on this off season.
How do you work on things in the off season? Like, do you specifically take techniques or areas or situations you're confronted with and intentionally put yourself in them to work on those, or how do you work on improving on those weaknesses?
Well, a lot of it, like this fishing the opens, for instance, I got asked a lot last week at Smith Lake, why am I fishing opens? I'm already in the classic. I said, man, I want to stay sharp. And what I mean by that is, breaking down lakes in 2.5 days of practice, and this tournament decisions, on the water decisions during a tournament. And that's where you got to stay sharp, in my opinion. There's times where I'll go practice, different techniques. To say throwing a jerk bait, for instance, I'll go to a clear lake that's not too far and try to get some confidence in it. I got some buddies that are big swim bait guys that want me to come to California and fish a few days with them and add that to their arsenal, just stuff like that, But as far as tournament fishing, I think the more tournaments you fish, the more you rely on your instincts for decision making. Not necessarily fishing stuff that you found in practice, but having the confidence in yourself to go fish all new water during the tournament. And stuff like that is kind of what I like to key on in fishing opens.
What do you say every once in a while? And I'm sure you've heard this or seen this online or whatever. Once in a while, somebody will say Elite Series pros or pros from other circuits should not be allowed to fish the opens because that's the working man's. And you fished. That's how you got to the Elite Series. So what is your take on that?
Man, we're just, this is how we make our living. And this is where we get our income from, fishing tournaments. And it's just as big of a gamble for us as it is any open anglers on jumping into opens.
Yeah.
And, most of the guys enjoy having elite anglers there. It feels like we make them better also, just making them step their game up, so to speak, even though we're not any better. Most of the time, we're not any better of anglers than those open guys. Those open fields are pretty stacked with talent. And, I enjoy competing against them guys, and they make me better. And I hope I can make them better.
Speaking of making you better, who motivates you on tour? Like, are there specific anglers that, and maybe they're not even guys that you're buddies with that you hang out? I mean, you guys are all buddies with each other. Everybody gets along. It's always happy, joy. But is there anglers you look at that man, he's still out here, or he beat me to the boat ramp? Is there anglers you look at and you're like, man, that's what I need to be more like? Man,
if Rick Clunn don't intimidate you, you're not a bass fan. I mean, at his age, he still can hang with us young guys as far as practice goes. He's usually one of the first ones out there, and he's usually one of the last ones off. And he's 70 plus years old, and he's still thriving to be the best that he can be. He can motivate anybody. And then, of course, rooming with Hank's got that baseball coach mentality. Him and Tyler actually followed me around that fourth day on Sabine River. And every time I caught one, he'd be like, instead of showing it to the camera, he'd be like, hurry up, get it in the box. So it's just, he's more of the motivator, I guess you could say, the coach. But there's Rick Clunn. He can definitely motivate you as an angler.
I mean, he motivates you as a human being. I mean, Did you see what he did this week at fishing? He's
sleeping on his boat deck.
Yeah. So he slept overnight. If you guys haven't heard this story, he slept overnight in his boat with his son. Long rumored that he sleeps on the deck of his boat every once in a while. And clearly it is true. Him and his son slept in their boat. They woke up in the morning and donkeys came down in the little bay that they were in. One of the donkeys was in quicksand, and Rick Clunn's son quickly jumped in the quicksand. They spent 45 minutes, saved this donkey's life, and then went on the water must pre-fish and make the rest of us feel like lesser human beings, really. I mean, it's nuts what that man does.
Man, what was bad is the picture of him laid out on his boat deck with his sleeping bag. He had his rods still out on each side. I'm like, what if he rolls into a treble hook?
Oh, you think Rick Clunn moves when he sleeps? I mean, he goes into what was that thing Han Solo was in, the frozen chrysalis or whatever? I think he goes for a very short 4-hour hibernation where his body fully regenerates and he actually gets younger. And if he would spend 8 hours sleeping, he'd look younger than all of us, but he's got too much stuff to do.
Hey, there's been some Airbnbs we stay in with. I'm pretty sure my padded Phoenix front deck would have been a lot more comfortable.
That's true. What is, I tell people all the time, like traveling on the Elite Series and fishing for a living, the coolest thing about anybody's job that does this is the crap we get to see. Like sometimes our minds are so melted, and my wife will like find out stuff from me 2 weeks after it happened, because you come home and you're just like, what happened? Well, there's so much stuff that happened, but what is some of the strangest stuff you've ever seen on the road or pre-fishing competing? Like, did you ever come across some strangeness?
Oh man, there's a lot of it that you just kind of want to forget about. And when you travel with a bunch of guys like I do, man, there's a lot of stuff that just you're like. For instance, I can't even go there. But
Yes, you can. Whenever on this show, whenever you feel like you can't go there, that is the little angel on your shoulder telling you to do it.
I've seen Tyler Rivette ask. We were, for instance, at an open one time, and his stepdad was with a guy from up north that has some Illinois, some good deer hunting. And,
okay.
He said, Tyler, he's got a bunch of land up in Illinois for deer hunting. Tyler, yet without a hesitant, yelled back, does he have a daughter?
Did he?
He didn't.
Oh.
But I don't even think the man hurt him, but the rest of the open field waiting to take off hurt him. Some of the most memorable times on the Elite Series, fog delays. When you have guys like Swindle, who's probably don't even need to be bass fishing, he probably needs to be stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
It's pretty entertaining. And then there's been a lot of fun times on the road with a bunch of guys, and it's pretty fun.
Swindle is always a favorite, during the fog delay. He's a guy that always has a big crowd around him because his stories are limitless.
Yeah, I don't know how he's got that many stories, but he's the best storyteller, that's for sure.
Definitely. Who's the strangest dude on the Elite Series? Not in a bad way. I mean, some of my best friends are the strangest people I know, but who's somebody you're like, that is a peculiar dude?
Well, we go back to Rick Clunn.
He motivates you the most, and he's the strangest.
Well, he's intimidating too.
Yeah. Okay. So Rick Clunn.
You don't want to get in his bubble when he's trying to sleep.
Could you imagine if you were just out night fishing, me and you were just throwing buzz baits, and you come around a cove? Is that Rick Clunn sleeping in the court? Like, how weird would that be?
I know.
It's not just Rick; he's with his son. It's a learning moment in life.
Oh man, I can imagine.
Oh no, he's. I don't get. I mean, Rick Clunn amazes me. Like, at what point do you? But I just feel that tournament fishing is who he is. You know what I mean? It's.
He don't know nothing else.
Yeah. No. I mean, and he loves it like that. That's what amazes me. Like, I mean, I say the same thing about Shaw all the time too. And like the energy you would see with him was the exact same energy you'd see on camera and everything. It doesn't change. And you just don't understand where people like that get that. But I guess it's just the relentlessness of, I just want to keep doing this forever.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I want to be one day. I don't think Hank says, man, you're eventually going to get tired of it. And I was like, I don't see that happening, man. I love getting out there too much. And like I said, trying to break down the lake in 2.5 days and then competing with 100 guys, trying to see who figured out the lake better than anybody else. That's what I love about this sport, because it's never the same.
Yeah, every day, every situation. You know, you look at fisheries we go to routinely, and you hear people say that. Well, why don't you try some different lakes? But even, you know, you look at the St. Lawrence River, how different that river has fished every single time we come. I mean, it's always changing, and it seems when you think you figured them out, you've actually let it goes backwards. It seems.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you know, it's St. Lawrence, for instance. If we go back next year and the lake's opened up, I'll spend every day practicing the lake, and I've never done that. I've always stayed right there in the river, and you know, it's always different. Just because we go to the same lakes every year, it's never won the same way every year. Very, very seldom is it even able to compete the same way every year. For instance, last year I've been there twice, or I finished second there twice. Both times I finished second, I caught them a completely different way. And both times I've gone back, or every time I've gone back, it's that particular way is not even a way to compete anymore. So it's just one of the things where you gotta have to go figure them out every year.
Yeah, it's wild. It really is wild how, and technology too. I mean, there's ways guys are fishing now that you physically couldn't do just a few years ago. How do you stay on top of that? I would imagine that'd be frustrating, and not just technology, but it's like the sport of fishing right now. It feels like everybody's getting force fed. I mean, there is information and tips coming from all sorts of areas and innovations with electronics and stuff like that. Does that ever get frustrating as a pro? I mean, you're trying to focus on doing it, but you can't. It's not like, it seems like it's like sipping from a fire hose right now, really, like just because there's so much coming at you and you can't ignore any of it because it is your job.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I'm with Garmin, and one thing, you know, they do, they weren't able to do it last year because of COVID, but in 19, they brought us all in pretty much for a class, you know, whether it's on graphing or your sonar or your live scope. They pretty much had us in classrooms for a day and a half on every little bit of technology they have. So it's one of them deals where these companies help you stay up to date with the technology they're coming out with. But yeah, you're right, dude. It just changes every year. And 2 years from now, it'll be something even better than, say, live scope. So you just have to change with times.
You can't be, I would assume, you can't be that, you know, back in the day, you used to hear Denny Brower's a flipper, or, you know, Tommy Biff was a flipper, you know what I mean? All these different, I don't think you can do that anymore. Can you?
I do. I don't live far from the Tennessee River. And I've said for the last couple of years, I said, there's going to come a time where some of these ledge tournaments that you think are going to get dominated by ledge fish, somebody's going to win one with shallow fish. It's going to go back to your old school flipping jig days on laydowns and stuff like that. Because those fish are getting so used to it and so pressured out there on the offshore ledges that I believe it's going to play back into the shallow man's game one day. It hasn't happened yet, but I could see it definitely happen in the future.
Yeah, I mean, and the more and more they get pressured. I mean, if you look at how graph fishing changed in the Great Lakes, you know what I mean? And it didn't take long. And now this is actually live. You know, that's what amazes me. People, the learning, you know what I mean? Like used to feel like you only really learned if you're idling or if you caught a fish. And now, I mean, you can learn, you know, the way a fish turns away from your bait, whether it is interested in your bait or not. What's the most shocking thing that technology has taught you?
Man, last year when we were at Lake Champlain, I was catching them deep on rock piles, you know, anywhere from 25 to 35 foot deep. And the last time I was there and they were out deep on those same exact rock piles, I was catching them just having my sonar to drop down on them. And it was amazing to me how those fish would react to your bait by the time your bait got to them compared to your sonar. Yeah. And what I mean by that, by the time you see the fish on your sonar, that fish is liable to be 30 feet away from your bait. And you never would know it just going by your sonar. So it was pretty cool how quick the live scope was compared to my just regular sonar on my transducer.
Yeah, it's amazing what guys are continuing to learn, and the sport continues to evolve. What is your goal? I mean, obviously your goal is to make. Was your goal at the beginning just to make it as a pro angler? Is that how this started, or was your goal always set at trophies?
No, I mean, for career wise, I would like. I see myself more as an angler like Swindle. I mean, nothing against Gerald. He just don't have a blue trophy yet. But I would rather have them angler of the year trophies than a blue trophy, because that means you were the best all year instead of just one event. And that's where I would love to see my career go. You know, if I win a blue trophy along the way, I'll be tickled to death. But my ultimate goal is, now that I've, pretty much made it, I want to win Angler of the Year one time, or multiple times if I can, but we'll start off with one time.
I mean, you got to win the first to get multiples, right? So that sounds like a good goal. So do you believe that you'll be one of those anglers who will contend more for Angler of the Year than individual titles? Or, I mean, you've got 4 seconds. You can't believe that you aren't the guy who...
Yeah, but I really don't. I mean, that's hard to answer.
Yeah.
There's got to be some things go your way to win one. I've been close a few times now, but I don't know. I think I would rather have that Angler of the Year trophy at the end of the year, and kind of mark that legend status down. But, we got so many great anglers in my age class. It seems like, the age class I'm in is just stacked, from Polinick to Seth, the Johnsons to Gussie, Drew. I mean, we can just go all day. I mean, the list is so long. There's so many good anglers that could win that title year in and year out. So I'm just glad I can be a part of them, compete with them every day.
Well, you're definitely a part of it, and a very valuable part of the Elite Series. And I don't think anybody questions whether or not that title will come your way. I mean, it's coming. I mean, this pesky Bill Dance, or Bill Lowen, not Bill Dance. I mean, he's pesky too. It was his birthday last week. Happy birthday, Bill Dance. And Bill Lowen. I think it was his birthday too recently. My gosh, both of them. So that's why I brought that up. But I'm sure it's coming for you. But the one thing that it really stands out to me is just it seems like an inner peace almost. Like when I watch you, I remember when you first joined the Elite Series and you felt like a guy who was, to me, and this is just all from the outside, like this isn't anything you said, but you felt like a guy who's like, I want to show people I'm meant to be here. And now it just feels like you don't feel like you need to show people you're meant to be here. I mean, you're confident in your abilities, and I don't think anyone questions whether you're meant to be here or not. Is that true? Do any truth to my feelings?
Man, a couple of years ago, it was after my 4th year on the Elites. I sent a text message to John Cruz, because I got a lot of respect for John. And I said, dude, how many years did it take you till you felt like you had made it? He said, about the end of year 5. Wow. And about halfway through year 5 for me, I actually felt like I had made it. And it kind of makes you fish a lot more freely, a lot less stress on you. It really does. So, I'm just kind of glad where I'm at right now, and enjoying every bit of it. And like I said, funnest part to me is going to lakes now, trying to break them down in 2.5 days and seeing how well I did at the end of the week.
Well, last few years, it's worked out pretty good for you. So I enjoy having you on the Elite Series, and I enjoy having you here on this podcast.
Yeah, I enjoy being here.
I'm not good at ending them, so see ya.
All right, man. We'll see you later.
No drama, no bull crap, just two good dudes having a good conversation. And that's all I will ever promise you from this show. And I'm fine with this show just being that, just two dudes having awkward conversations. And without you guys, though, it's just becomes really awkward. So thank you for growing this channel week after week and sharing this show. Like Pat McAfee says, be a friend, tell a friend. So I don't want to totally rip off Pat McAfee. So I'll get super original. I'll say, be a pal and tell a pal about our silly little show each and every Wednesday, whether it's the AM or the PM. It will be up at 6 a.m. or PM. Let me know. We're still deciding. I think this one's up in the morning or it might be night. I don't know. You guys know. Really, it doesn't matter when it's up as long as you guys watch it. And if you do, you'll be able to watch it again next week. And let me know what you guys think of the guests, too. I mean, who do you want to see on here? And if you're somebody watching that thinks you should be on this show, you're a professional angler or something, people wonder how to get on this show, just fire me a text. It's really not that hard. I am the booker, the host, the idiot that signed up for this week after week. And I'm thankful that you are the viewer. See ya.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe because Bob Cobb of the Bassmaster told you to. You hear?